Taxes is something that every person in the United States absolutely despises. Now, it is a necessary evil, but that doesn't mean that people still like to pay it, that's for sure. For people in New York City specifically, the numbers that get taken out of your taxes is absolutely frightening when you look at it on paper. So Yahoo Finance actually released an article going over this topic in detail, really breaking down the numbers of what you need to make to be comfortable in New York City. And the numbers were wild, absolutely wild. So you actually need to make $300,000 to take home, at the end of the day, $100,000 annually. Let me break that down. That doesn't just mean taxes. So you're not gonna make $300,000 and then with taxes being taken out, take away $100,000. They're also factoring in cost of living in that number, but it's kind of crazy to think about when you do include the high cost of living in New York City and the taxes and everything else that you need to just live in general. That's about what people are taking home. They're only pretty much making $300,000 and taking home a third of that. And think of that on an even smaller scale. If somebody's making $60,000 or $80,000, what are they taking home then? It's wild to see these numbers. So Smart Asset is the research firm that Yahoo Finance quotes in this article, that they found that $300,000 to $100,000 ratio is not only just in New York City, but also in Honolulu, Hawaii, and San Francisco. Crazy to think of these numbers. So at the time of this article, median American salary is $70,784 to be exact. And that information is from the US Census Bureau. So Smart Asset, that research firm that Yahoo Finance quotes in the article, says that in New York City and these other cities that they talk about, you need to make on average 4 times that just to feel comfortable living in New York City. It's crazy that you probably think that that's a ton of money anywhere else in the world, but in New York City, you just feel like you're pretty much just getting by depending on your lifestyle. To think that you need to make 4 times the median salary across the United States just to feel like middle class in New York City is kind of disturbing if you think about it. So what can you do about this to live comfortably in New York City? The first thing that you can do is really just try to minimize your housing costs as much as possible. Now, there is not a lot of affordable housing in New York City, that's for sure. That's something that the city really, really needs to improve. So what can you do about this? I always recommend, actually as a real estate agent, to my clients that there's no reason to overspend on a New York City apartment, especially one that you're not going to spend a lot of time in. I think that sometimes people have this dream apartment in their mind that they want in New York City and might splurge and spend a little bit too much on an apartment that they're really not going to be in that much. And it really doesn't matter that they have this crazy nice apartment that they're never really in. So that is definitely one thing that you can do. Another thing that Yahoo Finance recommends is maxing out retirement accounts and really taking advantage of those extra savings that you might get through your employer or just really set up on your own. And now if anyone's ever watched any of my real estate investing content, I'm not the biggest fan of retirement accounts just because I'm a real estate person. I'm into real estate investing. So I think that there's better things to do with your money. But if you're not the type of person who wants to get into that type of investing and that's not for you at all, then I'm a huge fan of maxing out retirement accounts and going that route, because I do think it's a good form of investing if you don't want to be actively investing in something else. So what do I mean by these investment accounts? 401k, Roth IRA, things like that you can really take advantage of to start saving and making sure that you're saving for your future. And on top of it, it reduces your taxable income as well. So that's like a huge thing that you can definitely take advantage of those tax benefits as well. From a housing perspective, you can also, if you qualify, take advantage of the New York City housing lottery. So that is where a certain amount of apartments in a certain building or neighborhood is being offered for a lower amount of rent. Now, you have to have income requirements to qualify for that. So meaning you can only make a certain amount of money, you can't make over that to be accepted and win that housing lottery. So that is always something that I recommend people taking advantage of. If you just Google New York City housing lottery, you'll definitely find a lot of buildings that have open lotteries right now, and you might win a cheaper apartment in New York City. So I definitely advise people to take advantage of that if they can qualify with income. So another thing that I recommend, if you're ever considering purchasing in New York City, if you can, consider taking advantage of tax abatement buildings. So this is a program with New York City where certain buildings have lower taxes, so actual lower property taxes for that building for a certain amount of time. They can range anywhere in between 10 to 25 years. So it depends on your building or the building that you're considering. But when you see the taxes in a tax abatement building versus regular taxed building in New York City, sometimes the price differences are crazy, like absolutely insane. I always advise my clients that if you are ever considering purchasing, take advantage of the lower taxes in the tax abatement building. And you can also find those easily by searching online, or you can always reach out to me and I'll give you a list of the tax abatement buildings in New York City. New York City is very expensive, and unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, but sometimes there are little things that you can do just to help your situation if you want to or have to live here. So I hope that helped you learn how expensive New York City really is by the numbers, and also maybe gave you a few ideas of what you could potentially do to help you save some money in New York City. Now, I would love to know, do you think that living in New York City is worth the high cost of living? As always, I just love hearing from you guys.